So I went through and I did the hard calculations for elemental damage specifically because I really just wanted to know whether or not I really had the most efficient setup. And this is what I came out with here, which is that basically the best combination, as I'd already seen on Discord, is Leaf Bow plus Power Ring plus Power Ring. Sorry, for that type of, specifically for grass damage. Basically, an Elemental Bow plus 2 Power Rings is the most raw elemental damage for abominations. And then what I had heard for other things would be, like for dust farming, it would be the Dust Bow plus, I think, a Dust Ring plus then an Elemental Ring. As you can see here, in terms of the raw elemental damage, in my case, the Dust Bow plus the Power Ring plus an Elemental Ring actually came in second place. And I think that's because my Dust Bow is very high weapon power compared to my other weapons. It's 117. So that is a significant bonus over my Grass Bow, but that's partly why I wanted to do a calculation, was to actually know whether or not, that weapon power gap was actually made up by the elemental damage. And it turns out that it is, and then some. Since you can see here, I was getting 1,122 million damage compared to 831 million max damage on the upper end there. But you can see how much of a difference elemental damage actually makes for, say, abominations, because the Dust Bow at 117 weapon power plus Power Ring, 145 weapon power total, only got me 273 mil damage without the elemental damage multiplier. So that's a pretty big difference. Clearly far, far worse than incorporating the correct elemental type damage. So this may be different though if you're in an earlier world with worse gear or different gear, because early on you can have some dramatically different types of gear or lower elemental damage bonuses. So I think it's one of those things where you may want to calculate this yourself. And I mean, all I did was I just took the damage from here, multiplied by the bonus elemental damage bonus right here. And of course, this is assuming that this is the type of elemental damage that is going to be the most effective against whatever it is that you're fighting. Because if it's not, then you're not going to get that bonus. So that's the key. That is the key thing. So for me, looks like basically it is what I was already doing that's going to be the best. And that's how we are going to do it. I might try and see if I can run a calculation on the dust. But I assume it would be what people had said. That would only be between basically running the Dust Bow plus 2 Dust Rings versus the Dust Bow plus a Dust Ring and then another an Elemental Ring, which seemed to be the way to go, just because you're getting all that. You're getting the Elemental Multiplier, which, as we've seen here, is a pretty significant multiplier in terms of additional damage versus like the one that doesn't have any elemental damage. So that's a very significant amount of damage, especially if damage is going to have any impact on the dust from, where you're at. Then clearly adding the elemental ring in is going to be the better option. I think the other thing to note of this is that it does basically indicate that there is going to be some serious farming of elemental bows, probably. And the rings are more like a temporary thing you're going to farm, and then I'm probably not going to mess with the rings much again unless I wanted to try and min-max the miscellaneous bonuses. But definitely seems like bow farming is going to continue, probably just trying to go for higher weapon power 4 out of 5s